Podcast Batching Day. We're back for our next interview. We are at the top of the hour on all the odd hours today. So we're at 11 a.m. and our guest today is the founder of Ultimate Efficiency Virtual Assistants, where he helps business owners to scale their companies by combining smart systems, skilled virtual assistants, and AI tools. He works with entrepreneurs who feel like they're doing everything themselves. Who feels like that, right? And want to grow without being overwhelmed by the day-to-day operations. So, also, not only does he run his own VA, but we are working alongside him to have our own VA agency here inside of OmniSam, which is still a work in progress. We haven't signed on the dotted line, but I'll let you know. We'll tell you more about that in today's episode and how this all came about. But help me welcome not only Menno, but we have somebody else here as well. Welcome, Menno and Ash. Hey, Menno.
We are
hey, Ash.
all here.
We are. So on our last episode, Ash was a podcast bomber. She just kind of jumped in on our last interview and we thought, hey, Ash is starting to get into this podcast thing, so let's bring Ash in and she can join the conversation with you, Menno. But welcome to Strategy with Sally. Lovely to have you here. Before we get into today's content, tell me a little bit about where you started and why you started the VA agency.
Well, first of all, I got to say thank you for that great introduction because it was a really good introduction and because it gave me so many things to think about and things that I wanted to share already just from what you mentioned in the introduction. My mind is racing at a mile a minute. So my introduction to, well, the company's called Ultimate Efficiency. My first foray into efficiency was when I was probably about 4 or 5 years old, and I noticed that there were borders around road signs. And I thought if the government cuts those off, remelts them down, they'd be able to make so many more road signs if they do that. And I was always looking for different little efficiencies. Then instead, I went into hospitality, had a cafe, started business coaching people after that. And then I noticed that I was doing everything by myself, like you mentioned. And it was just too much. I was going crazy. I wasn't sleeping. And yeah, it was all headed downhill. So I got my first virtual assistant, made some mistakes, learned from that. Moved on, did another one, learned some more from that, and eventually got the hang of it. And then from there, all of my friends started saying, look, we've noticed that your business is doing better, that you're not as stressed, you're sleeping more, you're happier, everything's going so much better. How do we get one of those? How do I get my life to be like yours? And the virtual assistant agency was born.
There you go. Wow. And I know that somebody kind of was helping you in the early days. Who was that, Menno?
Absolutely.
Who was that?
So it was somebody with a very sparkly personality who has very beautiful hair.
I wonder who that might be.
I'll let the audience guess who that could be. This is a
Yes.
podcast, so people can't actually see you. So
Oh,
they'll have to
sneaky
know you
surprise,
to know
Menno. This is
that you
being
have
streamed
rainbow
live.
hair. Oh, we're also being streamed live? Okay, well then in that case, no problems.
Sneaky surprise for you there. Originally, because I had this, all of our clients were wanting VAs and always asking about VAs. And I thought, let's go and start another business with Menno because we, got on really well. But then I realized partway in, it's too much trying to do two things and run two businesses as well. So I'm like, here, take the reins, off you go, Menno. And how long have you been running the VA agency for now?
So we started about 2 years ago together, and then it's probably been about 1.5 years now,
Yep.
1.5 years that we have continued working together, but not on the two businesses from that point of view.
Yeah. And so recently I'm like, okay, Menno, you've got this thing up and running. It's looking awesome. Let's collaborate. So that's where we're going to be bringing and training up VAs in the OmniSam software ready for you guys to look at hiring. But that's we're still in the paperwork stage of that agreement right now. But just a little hot tip to everyone who's thinking, wow, OmniSam has all of these things for you. But guess what? We're going to have VAs for you soon that will get certified in OmniSam. Look, what I might do is, I think Ash is looking for what the questions might be.
I'm good. I'm just letting everybody know that we're here. So
Ah.
that's where I'm at. Very exciting. And yeah, talking about like documentation and things like that. How good is having a VA to help you with those things? Wink, wink.
Oh, there are so many things that I just wouldn't want to do anymore by myself, or just can't really do that well anymore because there are VAs who can do it so much better than me.
Yeah. And
Amazing.
the main reason I asked Ash to come in is because, well, her role, she's customer success, but also she is the person who looks after our team. And you working with teams, I thought that would be a really good conversation for the two of you to have around actually having and running a team, because I know a lot of business owners, it's a hard decision to start hiring. One, it's the expense of hiring, but then once you start hiring, it's like finding talent is a whole other beast in itself. But I'll leave it to the two of you to really talk about, what and how to manage teams, because I've struggled. That's why I got Ash on board, was specifically because that's what her background is. And you are constantly working with business owners to build teams. So, yeah, please share around running and managing teams.
Perfect. So I'm going to ask the first question, if that's okay with you, Menno. How
Yes, go
are
ahead.
businesses actually unknowingly losing that money due to inefficiencies? I think you said it was about $100,000 that people are losing due to inefficiencies. How? What is it? Please tell me more.
Correct. So, for example, clients want things quicker and quicker nowadays. Everything has to be faster and faster. People don't really have time to look at videos, and they'll look at something for 5 seconds and then scroll to the next thing if they're not interested by it. So, the same thing happens. If you are running the business by yourself, emails come in, people are inquiring about your business, they want to know more about you. And the mistake that a lot of business owners make is they think that if somebody is a tradie, or if they are, it doesn't really matter what kind of business you are, when inquiries come in and they think, oh, that person is just looking at me, but they're looking at 5, 6, 7 different businesses at the same time. So if I don't answer immediately, if it takes me 24 hours to answer because I'm busy with clients, I'm doing something else, I'm doing some admin, I'm doing whatever it is that I'm doing for my business, and it's all important, it has to be done, but it keeps me away from answering that email. So in the meantime, they've received an email from somebody else and they do business with that person potentially, rather than doing business with us. Even if
Yeah.
our business is better, if we can do it faster, if we can give them better service, it doesn't really matter. And that's one of those really interesting principles in business. You can
Speed to
have the
lead,
best
baby.
product. If you're not out there, if people don't know, if you're not answering quickly, then you're going to lose that business. So I've done some calculations on a number of these different types of leaks that businesses have, and it can come up to about 100,000, because you might be signing up 2 extra clients per month, per week, whatever it is, because you're now answering the emails immediately because you have a VA. They're answering the emails as soon as they come in. People engage with you, so they're more likely to then sign up because you're the fastest to answer, and it just makes a huge difference. And the cost of a VA, I call it cost in this case, but really it's an investment. It's an investment because you're paying somebody that is going to bring these 2 extra clients. If you know how much your profit is on those clients, the cost of the VA is probably a lot less, meaning that you're investing a little bit of money in order to be able to make whatever it is that your margin is per signed client, because you're now answering your emails immediately.
Yeah, amazing. And yeah, speed to lead it is really, really important. I think Sally and I were actually discussing it the other day. If you don't answer within 5 minutes, you are losing, I think it was 40% of your chance to convert that potential client. Within 24 hours, 90% from what we were talking
Yes.
about the other day. So, 5 minutes makes a huge difference in terms of contacting that person and helping them. Um, and things like and I'm sure you're going to get into it, but the smart systems that allow things to happen in the background so that you have a chance to pick up the phone and give them a call and really be that first person. Um, yeah, really, really good points. And I think, why do you think most entrepreneurs get stuck when they're trying to scale? Like, what is it that really sticks them that they don't understand?
It is probably being very insular in you're running your own business and you're not really having a look at what else is going out there. So if you, for example, think, well, it doesn't matter if I answer, I've got enough business coming in at the moment. People don't see that they're leaving money on the table. They don't realize that having somebody is going to make things a little bit faster. Because I might think, well, I'm busy. I've got all these different things that I need to do. But having somebody else send the email, it doesn't mean necessarily that they're going to get the business immediately or that they're going to be able to speak to you immediately. But you can at least put them into a holding pattern and say, look, we've seen your email. We know that you exist. We know that you have a problem, and we have time at this time later today to be able to speak to you. It keeps the ball rolling rather than, oh, I haven't heard from these people, but I've heard from these three others. Let's make a choice out of those three because I've got a burning problem. I got to get it done now. I think it's a lot to do with where are you at in your business? How busy are you? And are you looking around to have a look at what the challenges are? Or are you just putting out fires, running around from one thing to the next?
Yeah, absolutely. And as a business owner, you do have 1,000 things on your list. 1,000 things on that list that you need to do. And every single one of them, like you said earlier, is absolutely important. But you can't focus on 100% of the tasks. You need to be focusing on the tasks that bring the revenue, bring the money, creating innovation and allowing the business to move forward. So, 20% for 80% return. And being stuck in the busy work doesn't serve your business very well. That's not to say the busy work is not important. It absolutely is. But automate or delegate, right? That busy work stuff. So, how can combining CRMs, virtual assistants, AI, all of that kind of stuff create that scaling shortcut?
It's all about having a look at what tools are out there and what is going to do something for you. So, as I said, I used to believe in cutting around the edges of street signs in order to be more efficient. And it's the same with business. If I make a tweak on, actually, an even better example is the British cycling team. So the British cycling team were okay. They weren't winning major medals, they weren't really superstars in cycling. And then they hired a manager, and the manager said, okay, we're going to look for small 1% improvements. So they looked for a different oil in order to let the pedals turn a little bit faster. They had a look at all sorts of little tweaks to the bike, but they also had a look at sleep patterns. So we're going to have a look at what kind of pillow everybody sleeps on best. And then we're going to make sure that everybody has that pillow rather than whatever they get when they're touring. So you don't have the home comforts. So they'll make sure that you have the right pillow. So they looked at all these small little 1% improvements. And I come from a trading background as well. So if you are doing, let's say, for example, 3% on a monthly basis, at the end of the year, that equates to about 64, 65, maybe even 70% return. So
Wow.
you're really multiplying it. So if you're looking for these 1% improvements, then that's going to allow you to get an exponential result at the end. So in business, you want to do that all the time. So I'm doing the business by myself. I'm always too busy. I don't have time to do certain things. So what can I automate first of all? Well, I can put a CRM in place. So now I have, if I have somebody doing sales for me, for example, or if I'm doing the sales, I can keep track of everybody. So I know who I'm talking to, what we spoke about last time, and it's that 1% improvement. Next, I might need somebody who's going to push people along in the system. So I don't have time for that, or there's an email that comes in. So I now have a virtual assistant that allows me to do even more work in less time. And then we're also looking at AI. And it's interesting as well. So a lot of people will say, well, AI, job cuts, etc. But the interesting thing is when the automotive industry started putting robots in place, yes, there were factory workers that lost their positions, but somebody had to make the robots, somebody had to program the robots, somebody had to fix the robots if they broke down. And if we went from car model A and we changed it to car model B, the robots have to be reprogrammed because they're not going to be riveting in the same place. They're going to be riveting in different places. So now we need somebody who's going to change the programming so that we can go from car model A to car model B. Because obviously, if it rivets everything in the same place as car model A, then car model B is going to break and it's not going to
You got
work.
holes in your mirror.
Absolutely. So it's all about these efficiencies. And the more you can start to implement them over time, the better the business will be. If you say, I am fine the way that I am, and I'm not looking for things that are going to be better, then your business is going to stay where it is or move backwards.
100%. I can completely relate. So, one of the things Sally and I were talking about it actually last night is my role as customer success is to look for problems on purpose. It's to go hunting for what's broken and find it before anyone else does, and then figure out the strategy to fix it. Then you need your implementer, right? The person who then goes and does the homework and does the stuff to get the job done. In most cases, that person is the business owner. They don't have an Ash, hello, hey, hi, everyone, who's reading the documents and going through them with a fine tooth comb. They don't have that person who's hunting for issues, and they don't know them until it's already down to the wire. So, I guess, what are the common mistakes that entrepreneurs are making when they're delegating tasks or building their systems? Yeah, what are they doing?
So the biggest mistakes that I see are, first of all, not having actual standard operating procedures. So the business owner doesn't know what they're doing. They're making it up on the fly every single time. So when they have chaos, they're going to pass the chaos on to the VA. That's the first one. The
Hmm.
second one is management of a virtual assistant. So if I've never worked with somebody, obviously I'm not really sure of what I'm supposed to be doing. But when I give a task, very often we take shortcuts. Oh, can you do X, Y, Z? Without really going into the detail of what X, Y, Z is. So I have a whole formula that allows you to do a really good prompt for somebody. It's similar to AI as well, by the way. But what I'll do is I'll make sure that I've ticked all the boxes. So, how is this meant to be communicated? What does success look like in this task? What resources are you going to need? Are there any missing resources that I haven't given you? And so I get that information back immediately. What I'll also do is I'll make sure that the person that I'm working with is going to recap what I've told them. So this is the task, and I make sure that they've actually understood, because a lot of
Mm.
people will say, "Yes, I understood that," haven't actually understood it, go work on something for half an hour, and then come back with something that isn't what I actually wanted. So if I get them to recap, I know that they've actually understood what I've said. And then what I also do is I'll get them to give me an update after about 10 minutes so I can see if they're on track. There used to be this diagram that I'd draw. We want to go from point A to point B. Let's say that's at the bottom of the screen and the top of the screen. And we want to go in a straight line, but very often when I give people homework for their business coaching, for example, they'd go off at a tangent. So they'd change the homework. They didn't like the way that I'd set the homework. They do it differently. And so they end up at some point C a little bit further up. Now, if they've been working on that for a whole week, then they're far
Yeah.
off the mark.
Yeah.
If I catch them after about 10, 20, 30 minutes, or after the first day, for example, with business coaching homework, then they're still relatively close to the direction that they were supposed to be going. They haven't been working on something, wasting time on something different to what I asked them, and
Mm.
I can direct them back. So it's the same thing. I give somebody a task, and after 10 minutes, I get them to send me what they've done up until this point, and then I can see if they've misunderstood. And if I say, for example, I want you to book people for an interview, they might think that it's going to be an interview for staff, but really it's an interview for an article. So it's a very different type of task, different outcome that we're looking for. And so after 10 minutes, I can see, oh, they haven't understood. They've understood that they need to do an interview and get that sorted, but they think that it's for staff and not for an article. So then obviously I can quickly get it rectified rather than at the end of the week, when the deadline's due and we need to have everything ready, we've gotten the wrong thing back.
Oh my goodness, Menno. And this is a big part of learning how, when I was hiring, getting a VA and then giving them a task and then realizing that it hasn't ended up exactly the way I wanted it. And it boils back down to me. I haven't been clear up front and actually laid out the action plan and the step by step, because I've noticed through hiring over the years, there are sort of two different ways. There are what I like to call the VAs, the virtual assistants, that they're doers, right? They get the job done, but they need instructions on all the things they need to do. So they're just checking the boxes. And then we've got the thinkers. They're more of your EAs. They're the ones that you can just give them a high level overview, but then they're very good at problem solving and thinking outside the box, like Ash is, right? Very much a problem solver. And they love that and they thrive on that. And the differences in the way I will present the work to an EA versus a VA is very different, because, like all of us, we're all built differently and our brains are wired differently. And some people just like to have those check boxes. And that's, I guess, one of our biggest struggles was finding like EA quality. When people are thinking about hiring for the first time, what would you say is the jobs that you would recommend to outsource first if it's your first time hiring?
So it's really going to depend. I find that there are two different types of entrepreneurs. There's one who is very good at generating revenue and doing the marketing and speaking to customers, doing the sales calls. And then there are those who really don't like that. They're not good at that. They don't have the skills for that. And they're very good at certain other tasks. So they might be more the CEO who's thinking about the future direction of the business, or they might be better at more admin tasks. Or dealing with the customers rather than closing the customer and marketing to the customer. So it doesn't really matter which one of those two you are. You want to always find the efficiency. So if you are very good at marketing, I like to say, let's say, for example, if you are a 4 out of 10 in marketing, so you're not that great at marketing, then you want to hire somebody who's a 9 or an 8 out of 10 at marketing, because they're going to be able to complement the thing that you're not so good at. Because you're only going to, even if you study and get better at it and do your best at it, you might only get to a 5 or a 6. You might be lucky, you might get to a 7 out of 10, but somebody's going to be able to outperform you who can do it at an 8 or a 9 out of 10 level. So it doesn't really matter what you're good at or what you're not good at. You want to find people that are going to be able to complement you and do the things that you can't do. So some people will say, well, the business owner needs to generate more revenue. They need to do more revenue generation tasks. But if you're not good at that, find a VA or somebody else who can do those for you. If you're snowed under in admin tasks, then get somebody to do those admin tasks, because it's taking you away from your core competency of, maybe it is marketing, but maybe it's actually dealing with customers or finding solutions that customers need solutions to. It doesn't really matter what it is, but I actually have a checklist that I go through with clients, and we have a look at two things: not just what your skill level is in that area, but also how much you enjoy it or like it. So we'll prioritize, first of all, the things that you don't like and that you're not good at, and you give those to the virtual assistant, and they're going to be different for everybody. So that's why we have the checklist. You go through, you score everything, and then we can see, based on that, everything that you are not good at and that you don't like gets delegated first. Anything that you like but you're not good at gets delegated next, and then everything else you're most probably still going to be doing yourself. until you can get that business that's going to run completely by itself and all the staff run everything and you go on your beautiful holiday to a Caribbean island or something.
Get off
L-
the tools. Get off the
Oh my gosh, we're
tools.
Correct.
going. We're hopefully traveling overseas in the next 12 months. I'm very excited. Um, One thing I want to ask, and it's really prevalent at the moment, is the psychological safety of your team, making sure that they feel comfortable to speak up if they're struggling, because that's something that we do notice. Like you said before, yes, I understand. Yes, I've got this.
Mm.
And then we go and do the work, and you've got your 10-minute stopgap. But encouraging your teams to speak up and say, hey, I'm not having a great day. Hey, this is beyond my wheelhouse. How are you with your VAs? Because it can be more difficult remotely. You can't see them. You're not with them. You don't know what's going on. You might have them in Zoom or something like that, but there's a bit of a barrier there. How do you help promote that bonding and psychological safety amongst VAs and business owners?
Even a step further, with a virtual assistant, it's dual because you have not just the remoteness, but it's also a different culture. So certain cultures are going to be much more polite. They're not going to say if they have a problem. They feel that they should maybe keep working through issues. We recently had a virtual assistant who was doing a lot of overtime because they just couldn't get the work done during the daytime. And they weren't flagging the fact that it was a problem for them. And they were just doing overtime because they still wanted to complete the work, which is a good attribute, but it's also an issue.
Love it, but
So,
rest. Yeah.
yes, absolutely. So the two things that are really important is firm and fair. So you want to create an environment where you are firm on what the boundaries are, but you want to be very fair and you want people to feel comfortable. So you want to create a really safe environment. So that's the first thing. And once you've created that, then you can start looking at different tools to be able to do that. So for our clients, we've recently introduced this. So we get our virtual assistants to send an end of day report. And we've structured the questions so that the AI can analyze what they've said. We've created it as a safe space so the clients do not get access to this report. It gets analyzed and it looks for whether somebody might be overworked, whether they're underutilized. It will have a look at how they're feeling, what kinds of things they're saying, and it's looking at the underlying language that they're using. So you want to create that safe space so that people can come to you and let you know. And I do this with the staff all the time. If something goes wrong, and things go wrong, we all know that. But if something goes wrong, I will always tell them, I do not really care what went wrong. I don't care who caused it. I just want to know what went wrong. We fix it immediately. No need to cry about it or worry about it. We fix it immediately. Once it's fixed, we go back and have a look at what caused the issue, not who caused the issue, but what caused the issue. Once we figure out what caused the issue, we look at can we set a procedure in place that's going to prevent it from happening in future. So maybe somebody was a bit distracted. How can we prevent you from being distracted in the future so it doesn't happen again? If it was an issue with regards to the system broke down, somebody didn't communicate something through, how can we make sure that the communication does happen next time? So we're not blaming you for the communication that broke down this time. We're just looking at how can we fix it for next time so that you don't even have to think about or worry about something going wrong. And by creating that safe space, people will come to me automatically and tell me what's not working. They will tell me if they feel uncomfortable. They'll tell me what's happening that needs to be fixed. They'll admit to mistakes and do all of those different things that in other kinds of cultures, in other kinds of business or work cultures, that's frowned on. And so people will hide everything and they'll want to show a brave face.
Yeah, we've noticed
Absolutely.
that with especially
Yeah.
hiring in the Philippines. They're very polite, they're very accommodating, and they don't like to tell you if they don't understand. And like you were saying before about getting them to repeat it back to you and then checking in with them, I think especially is important. And what we've found is we've had times where someone's been working on something for 2 weeks and we go to deliver it and it's not correct. And that all back again falls on me for not checking in, just assuming that they understand, and assuming that they're like us. Like here in Australia, if you don't get it, we will interrupt you. Like we're not shy at coming forward and, asking questions and saying that's not right. Whereas in the culture in the Philippines are very much more polite, and they want to be good at what they do. And they're scared, they're more afraid to ask for help, as in it might make them not look as smart, I guess. And so that has been a big learning curve for us as well, is owning the responsibility when our team doesn't perform. It does still come back to the leadership as well, and making sure that we
It's
put those things in place.
exactly. If a team member doesn't perform, you have to look at yourself first. You can't look at the team and go, well, you didn't do it. No, no, no. Did we teach them? Did we give them development time? Did we allocate time to develop and give them that material in multiple different ways, whether it's via audio, written, video, or kinesthetic, so both? At the end of the day, we lead the charge, and we've got to put that time aside to allow them to learn and ask questions and make mistakes and learn from that as well. So, allocating time for those people, firstly making them feel safe to speak up, and then investing in their training so that they can do what it is that you want them to do. You can't hand a Ferrari to someone and say, hey, build my Ferrari, but no instructions. Well, I mean, my partner maybe, but most people know. So, giving that development time and having systems to help you with that development. And so, utilizing AI to create training programs for your teams, and using AI to create your standard operating procedures, using automations to deliver that content at a relative basis, I think is really important.
I think
Yeah.
it's also, you need to create a safe space for yourself as an entrepreneur as well, because we look at our work as also having to be perfect. And if I've given instructions, it's somebody else's fault if it hasn't been done properly. So you want to create that safe space for yourself as well, where you're kind to yourself and you realize that you need to be more open. You might need to learn more about, how do I manage somebody? How do I make sure that I'm not passing blame onto somebody else? How do I realize that if I've given bad instructions, that I've actually given bad instructions? And 90% of the time it will be us. So there are very few instances where I've not gotten back what I've wanted, and it hasn't been my fault. Um,
Communication is
and
key.
and being able to realize that allows you to actually go to a whole different level as an entrepreneur. But you got to give yourself that safe space first, because we're always panicked and worrying about, am I doing the right thing? Is another business owner doing it differently? Should I be doing it some other way? Is this the wrong way of doing it? And if you just say, look, I'm learning on a day-to-day basis, I'm going to keep improving different systems, then you're going to progress much more than if you're constantly second guessing yourself and constantly wondering if this is the right way of doing something, because there's no right or wrong way anyway. There are bosses who are extremely strict, who are going to be yelling at everybody all the time, and they're successful. There are bosses who are yelling all the time and they're not successful. There are bosses who are overly nice and they're not successful, and there are bosses who are overly nice who are successful. So it's not about how you do something, it's about your growth and your journey, and finding the systems that work for you and your clients.
The biggest thing I found about having Ash on the team is realizing how little, like, I would get them to do some type of training, but we're so busy all the time in customer fulfillment that we don't have the time to train. Well, it's not that we don't have the time, we're busy, but we weren't making specific time. And Ash, you can speak to, like, what have you now put into place to ensure that our team, because you can bring them in and they come with a certain skill level, but understanding every business and their systems and processes are really hard. But yeah, Ash, speak to, I guess you've put in some pretty cool things into our business to improve our staff.
Wink, wink. And I'm sure I'll learn plenty from Menno as well, as we work through what's happening here. But a little bit of my background, I've come from managing teams in a retail space and in an office space as well. So, sorry, excuse me. So, my biggest team was 16 team members, age range between 15 and 50. And my sort of corporate was more in real estate, so office management, managing the rental department, etc. And for us, there's a lot of training provided and things like that. And I did it back then in my spare time, right? Like after work, I couldn't sleep and I'm like, may as well be productive. So I'll do my training. That is not what you should expect of your team. You cannot expect them to be doing everything in their spare time. And if they're working, they deserve to get paid. So please remember that, everyone. We love you. And for us, when I came into this business, what I looked at was, okay, we're talking on WhatsApp, we're using Slack and various other communication platforms, but we don't have an overarching view of what's happening with each person. We've got an execution plan and we're working our way through, and then we have a meeting and we're like, cool, we're going to go look at this. So we implemented a task management system where all execution plans, so the build work, is input, and every single phase of it with its details has a date and a time and a person assigned, so that you can watch what's going on, you can communicate in there. And then that kind of covers the build work and managing their time. But in terms of their training, the system that we give the clients, which is called Business in a Box, which is part of OmniSam software, teaches them A, B, C, and D, how to put your business together. It's the instructions for that Ferrari. And it's a video walkthrough. So why aren't we watching it as a team? Why aren't we going through exactly what the clients do? So the team, just like a new client, are having a weekly onboarding session with me. So they have to go and complete a percentage of watching the training videos and then implementing it on a internal project. And then each week for the first 4 weeks, they come back to me, they show me their build, and we sort of work it through together, answer any questions that they have, and they're building something just like a client would. They're experiencing it from the outside, the customer journey, and learning, the steps involved in that, which I think is fantastic. And now Mondays for us, we don't generally front face for clients. We do if it's like an emergency or something's happening. And it used to be we'd have our team meeting and we'd catch up and we're like, yeah, cool, this is what I'm working on. And then they'd go off and do their work. No more. Mondays are training days specifically. So every Monday we come in, we have our team meeting, and then the entire day they can pick one of 4 training areas. And the first area is the area that they identified that they struggle with the most. And I'm there that day with no meetings to answer questions, jump in and help as well. So that, again, just another area that we can help them. And now we have to make the time, because if we don't make the time, we'll never be there. We'll always be too busy. There's always more client work. There's always more deliverables. There's always something that's broken that needs fixing in every single business. So you got to make that time. But yeah, that's just 2 things that I've implemented. I'm not going to tell the whole story.
Yeah, we can do a whole episode just you and I chatting on that. Menno, how do you go out and find talent? Because that's why people pay an agency, right? I used to try and hire, and I'd post in a Facebook group, and I would get like 200 DMs of people applying, and I don't have the time to read them. I used to do a little thing where I would put, you must add these words to your subject line, and or your application won't be even looked at least to try and cull some of those people down. But business owners, we're already busy, and trying to find talent, that's why we have people like you who go out to find talent. So how do you actually go out and find that talent?
So first of all, it's the quality of the place that you're looking. So we're looking for people who have graduated, who are very keen to support a family or do something that's going to make sure that they're not going to do anything wrong. We also do a lot of vetting. So we already know that the places that we're looking are high quality. So we're looking at, say, for example, TAFEs and those kinds of institutions, somebody that's just graduated who's hungry to find work. And so they've got a basis which is really strong. Um, and then once we've found them, we're going to also test them. So we're going to have a look at what their qualities and skills are. And skills can be taught, but attitude cannot. I studied hospitality management and business administration in the Netherlands, and I remember that the banks were hiring more hospitality students as managers than they were finance students. And the reason they said was because we can take a finance person and they know the numbers, but they can't really deal with people because they're good at numbers. They're a CNS type personality, for those who know the DISC profile. Whereas a hospitality student is really good at dealing with people, and managers need to deal with the people. So if something escalates, it's going to go to the manager. They can deal with the people, and the computer can look after the numbers. So can this mortgage be approved? Can this financing deal be approved? Is this change possible? The computer will just spit out the answer. The finance person can calculate it by themselves, but the computer can also do it for you. But you need somebody who can deal with the people. And so we're looking at what skills they have from an attitude point of view. If they have a good attitude, if they're willing to work, if they see things from the bright side, if they're willing to put in a little bit of effort to do some tasks that we ask them to do, then they're the right fit. They may or may not have all of the skills that we need. But one thing that we do as an agency is we say, okay, look, you're hiring somebody, but you're hiring all of our VAs. So if you are hiring, let's say, for example, Wilson or John, or it doesn't really matter who, they might be very good at CRMs, or they might be very good at social media, or they might be very good at, you name whatever area of the business. But if they have never used this software, or if they've never done this particular task, there is somebody else in the team who has, who will be able to assist them. So you're not just getting somebody that can do the tasks or the skills that they've already learned. You're getting somebody who has access to almost anything a business owner could need. And so you're hiring for attitude. We're always looking for the right attitude. If they have the right attitude, we can teach them all sorts of other things on top of that.
Yeah, that's it. And I see that in their values as well, right? You can, one thing that somebody said once that really stuck with me was hire slow, fire quick. It's giving them the time, but you can always tell pretty early on if somebody's values are aligned or their work ethic is aligned. And especially like in our community, we're very heart centered. We tend to attract lots of heart centered people, bit woohoo at times. And we want our team to be empathetic and we want our team to have emotional intelligence. And, higher fire. I do struggle with firing. I'm so bad at it. I will speak to my counselor. I will practice what I've got to say. I'll bring someone with me so I don't cry because I'm don't want to hurt their feelings. So I've definitely kept people in a role for way longer than I should because I feel like I'm currently feeding your family and I don't want to take that away, but it's not good for business.
You're also doing them a disservice, though, if you keep someone in a position that they're not necessarily suited for or they're not, flourishing in. If you've provided them everything that they need, the training, the development, the time, the structure, all of the things that we've been talking about, if they're not flourishing, there's going to be somewhere that they will, and they will have an amazing time and their personality will really just shine through and it will come out and they'll be absolute stars. But keeping someone who's not the right fit is really a disservice.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about the VA side of things and hiring help, because having an extra set of hands is invaluable within business. And we're talking about physical, real human hands. Hey, hi, hello, I'm in the office. So Sally's got local staff as well. So an extra person in the office is always fun. But what are the first steps to implementing smarter systems to build that support team? So we've got either a helper. Some people may not be ready for a person yet. What are the first steps to getting the systems in place?
So first, getting really clear on who's going to be doing the task. It's something I wanted to mention earlier as well. It's really getting to know the person that you're working with. So understanding psychology and who you're working with and how they best learn. You mentioned before kinesthetic, visual, audio, visual, whatever it is. Everybody learns in a different way. So you want to make sure that you are giving them what they need in order to be able to understand things best. I think the most important thing is that when it comes to systems, you want to be really clear and you want to do it as easily as possible. So if I've already done the task, I want to record me doing the task. So it will take me 5 minutes longer. But let's say, for example, I'm going to show somebody how to do the social media. I will sit down and I will do my process for the social media and I record it. And so maybe it will take me, let's say, for example, 20, 30 minutes. I sit down and it might take me a little bit longer, 5 minutes longer, because I'm now explaining throughout the process. So I go to this page, I click on this, I do this step. And so I'm going through each step by step. And by doing it as a video, obviously the person can rewatch it. So it reduces the amount of time that they're coming back with questions or taking your time once again, because a lot of people are a bit worried that once I hire a VA, it's going to take me more time because I'm going to have to re-explain things. I'm going to have to train them. I'm going to have to do all of these different things. So the more you can avoid that, the better it is. So you do that as clearly as possible. And by having that in a video format, it's just going to make it a lot easier and a lot quicker. But you need to be really clear on what the outcome also is. So you might say to somebody, okay, it takes me 30 minutes. If it takes them longer than 30 minutes, they should be following the instructions. If they are doing it in 30 minutes, now you can have a talk to that person and say, okay, it takes me 30 minutes. You are an expert in this area beyond what I am. Are there shortcuts? Is there something that you can come up with that will be able to make this even more efficient? And then
Yeah.
you start seeing, because me as the business owner, I only know so much. So I have to do everything. So I need to be average at everything because I can't be excellent at everything. So if social media isn't my thing, I need to hire somebody that's better than me and they can then improve the processes that I've created. I get them started on my processes. I create the processes for them, but then I can start having a look at, are there ways that they can do it even better?
Oh
An
man, I've
example that
changed
I
so
give in
many of Sally's processes since I started. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. That's what I got you here for, especially for the team side. I have followed and studied and looked at how to grow a successful team, but you've had the experience of being in like and managing larger teams, and what you bring to the table, I couldn't skill up like that unless I went out and worked for somebody to
Mm.
develop that sort of team
I can
skill.
teach you, baby. Maybe
Yeah,
I'll teach
I'm
the
sure you
teacher.
will. Yeah, yeah.
Um, so one thing that business owners really often do, and I kind of want to touch on this, is we just fix it, right? We see the problem and we don't use that moment to teach. We kind of go, oh, it's quicker if I do it. It's quicker if I fix it. And that's
Ooh.
really, really rough for business owners. Yes, it's quicker, but no one learns, right? So, another thing that we just implemented, yes, if you do want to fix it and it's quicker, I absolutely get that. But the team need to know what went wrong, why it was wrong, what is the right way, and why it's the right way. So if you're going to go and fix it anyway, now Sally must, in this instance, record herself as she fixes it. Now, neutral language, no crankiness, because sometimes you can feel frustrated and stressed out and all of that kind of stuff. But now it becomes a learning tool. And they need to go and review that because they'll see, okay, I'm looking at this and the font sizing. I'm not sure if you don't quite understand, but you have to put it in over here and then it goes everywhere. You don't have to do it one by one, etc. It's now a learning tool that we have to review. It's part of our job. So while we're reviewing, why not just hit that record button, walk our way through, and then the team can watch it back on 2x speed super quickly and see exactly what happened. Yes, it's fixed. Yes, you did it twice as quick, but the team actually learn from it rather than feel I made a mistake, the boss had to fix it, and the boss told me I did this, this, and this, and I've looked at it and I can see what it looks like now, but I don't know how we got there. I don't know the in between. So with that in mind, what would you say are the top 3 AI items or tools that you must do or must have? One for if you don't have a team yet and you're just solo and it's just you handling things, and then for when you do have a team. What are the 3 for each scenario that you would recommend? Must have.
So there are so many tools out there, and each one is good for something different. But when it comes to fixing mistakes, it's valuable to well, it doesn't matter if it's AI or a VA actually in this case, because if I am going to review something, I'm not just going to show them what the actual answer is, because that's only going to teach them so much even. So if I do nothing, then obviously there's no learning if I just keep fixing it myself. So I want to show them what the fix is, what the eventual outcome is, but I also want to teach them how I think and how I come to that conclusion. So that's like the level up of that. Because now I say, look, this is how I look at the problem. Let's say, for example, as an entrepreneur, um, we need to look at it from the point of view the client wants everything as quickly as possible. So when I am doing this task, when I'm doing this process, when I'm looking at how this process needs to be done, I'm looking at how can we do it more quickly. So whenever you're looking at something similar to this, I want you to imagine that you're the client and you're looking at how it can be done more quickly, or you're the entrepreneur and looking at how it can be done more quickly. And the same works with AI as well. So AI, it doesn't really matter which tool you're using in this case. The most important thing is that you're providing it with, and a lot of people just use AI, but you also have custom GPTs. So hopefully you know what those are. And if anybody in the audience doesn't know what those are, they are, and most GPTs are actually now working more like custom GPTs anyway. But it's where you're adding files and you're giving it information so that it understands more about that particular area or that particular topic so that it can advise you better. You have GPT agents who can think more deeply about a problem as well. So it's really about how much context and information can I give to the VA or the AI so that it's going to think the way I think. So now if it does a task, or if the VA does a task, they're going to come at it not just this is the task, my outcome is I need to complete the task. Their outcome is I need to think of it in the way that Menno thinks of it, or Sally thinks of it, or Ash thinks of it, or the way the client's going to think about this, so that I then come at it from the same values, culture, ideas that the company stands for.
Yeah, love that. When I was starting to make my own GPTs, along with that, I was making SOPs at the same time to kind of merge them both together. And I started doing SOP Saturdays because, I never put time aside to make SOPs. So my goal was to just do one SOP a week. Just sometimes it was like 5 minutes to do an SOP of something really quick. But it started to build up my library of tools there. I think it's time to move into fast talk. What do you reckon, Ash? Yes. So this is how fast talk works, Menno. What we do is you have 2 minutes. We're going to ask you a bunch of questions. They've just if this or that type questions just to get your brain pumping. I'll let you run it again, Ash. You ran it in the last interview. Let's do it again. Are you ready, Menno?
I am ready.
All right, let's do it. Oh, wrong button. Let's try this one first.
All right, here we go. CRM or spreadsheet?
CRM.
Delegate or DIY?
Delegate.
Automation or manual?
Automation. These are all
Morning
very easy.
person or night owl?
Oh, morning.
We start off with the simple ones just to get you
not
going.
me. Work from home or the office?
Work from the office.
Ooh. Beach getaway or mountain retreat?
Both. But if I had to choose one, then it'd
choose.
be beach.
I'm in the same boat. I don't know. AI tools or human assistance? Ooh, it's a hard one.
Oh, everything has its place. But I think humans are never going to be able to be replaced fully by AI.
Yeah,
Agree.
always need a human. Reading or podcasts?
Reading,
Strategic planning or day-to-day execution?
strategic planning,
Email or messaging apps?
messaging apps,
Startup or established business?
startup,
Outsource or in-house?
outsource,
Quick wins or long-term growth?
long-term growth,
One big project or multiple small projects?
multiple small projects, because that's what everything is in life anyway.
Analytics or intuition?
Intuition,
I know this next one. Solo entrepreneur or team player?
team player,
Yeah. Structured routine or flexible schedule?
flexible schedule,
Learning from failure or learning from success?
learning from failure.
System first or people first?
Awesome. Thank you,
The
Menno.
buzzer went straight over the top of whatever you just said at the end, Ash. Not sure
I'll
what you
ask
just
it.
said.
Systems first or people first?
People first.
I love that. Couple of things like I'm like, but I do like intuition, but I am a data-driven girl for analytics. So Mar's done really well with these fast talk questions. She started them out real simple to get you going, but then threw a few thinkers in there, which I loved. Well done, Mar. We love our podcast manager. Now, as always, I have to end the podcast with a statement from you. So you have to say, "Hi, I'm Menno and I sparkle because," and then insert why you sparkle.
Okay, so I'm Menno and I sparkle because I am the efficiency master and I love looking at different businesses and what they can do differently because I see a lot of stuck businesses who are struggling, and with small little tweaks, every business can be really successful if the owner can just get out of their way and implement a couple of things differently and be open to the fact that they might need to make some changes.
Oh, that's like, I love that, especially the sorts of conversations that Ash and I have had over the last week.
Well, you boss. I feel psychologically safe enough to speak up when I need to say something, get something off my chest. And I think a really important thing is for an owner to know when they need help and say, we know that you got this. We know that you're smart. We wouldn't have created this business if you didn't have some amazing drive and passion for something in this world. But sometimes you just need help. And there's nothing wrong with saying that. And as Sally says, I've got food on my table because you asked for help and hired a staff member. So
Yeah, that's the one good
Well,
thing I love.
one of my favorite things is a commencement speech that Arnold Schwarzenegger did, and he said, "There's only one thing that I don't want to be called, and that's self-made man." He says, "When I arrived in America, I had nothing. When we're born, we have nothing. We have no skills. We need our parents and their friends to be able to teach us what we need to learn in order to become certain people." He didn't know how to do business. None of us know how to do business when we first start out. None of us know how to wipe our backsides. None of us know how to do anything. And so we learn different things, and that learning continues throughout life. And without our friends, without people giving us advice, without the person that, so some of the smartest things that entrepreneurs do come from advice they got from their friends. So if you'd never met that person, you'd still be doing things the old way. So the more you can understand that everything comes from everything that we experience, and that we need to keep looking for those experiences, the more you're going to succeed and thrive.
I
Awesome.
love that. What a perfect end. What a
Yeah.
perfect end. It's not the end, but what a perfect wrap up of this particular episode. I absolutely love it. If you're the smartest person in the room, go to the wrong room, go to a different room because you're in the wrong room. You need to
Yeah.
be able to learn
Absolutely.
Now, I also just want to mention to all of our academy and studio clients that Menno is going to be joining us as a regular expert inside of the community, helping with team building, leadership, and management. So, for all of you guys, Menno will be on the calendar. When are the sessions, Ash? I know you're the one who's putting all the experts together.
Once we finish our bits and pieces, the session will be locked in. So there's still a few bits and boxes to cover, and then it will be put in, but it'll be within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, cool.
And then I'll be able to go through some of the details that I wasn't able to go through on the podcast because we ran out of time. But some of those strategies and tips and tricks that I spoke about, we can go in detail. For example, how I put together tasks and how I make requests of VAs so that you get the perfect result every time.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this because no matter how much I've wanted to be really good at team, I'm not the best at team. And having people like Ash and Menno in my life are definitely making a huge difference to the growth in this business. So thank you, Ash, for joining me for our first co-host, official co-host session together. And
thank you for
Menno,
having me, and thanks for letting me bombard you with more questions, Menno. Our relationship now, working together, is me just harassing you with all of these questions and statements. So get used to it.
Ash, the potty bommy.
The potty bommy.
I love it. All right, guys. Well, as always, never let anyone dull your sparkle. Make sure you get.
Wait.
Oh, yes.
I'm so sorry. Menno, where do we go to learn more about you?
Thank you. Yes, Menno. People are going to want to know about you, where to follow you, where all the good stuff is. Where is that?
So it is at www.ultimateefficiency.com.au. So that's the website. We might need to send that out to people because websites are difficult to remember or type out.
Good. We'll stick it around the show notes and around this as
well. Reach out to Sparkle. Reach out to OmniSam because OmniSam knows how to get in touch with me, and that's one of the easiest ways. If you have questions, if there's anything you'd like to know, if you were challenged by something or want to ask questions about something that was discussed in the podcast, and that's the way to do it.
Wonderful. All right, we better wrap up and then start preparing for our next guest. Menno, as always, lovely to chat with you and so excited about having you join us in the Academy as an expert. It's going to be a wonderful, I will be re-watching your sessions as well. And so, yeah, anyway, we better wrap things up, but thank you. And as always, never let anyone dull your sparkle. Get one income producing done. Yes, Ash, every day, and every day be in marketing.
Do, 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 do.
I don't know the words. I can't sing along.
I'll send you the song in WhatsApp later today.
We will make a parody for it one day. Okay, fabulous, everyone. Have a good one, and we'll see you at the top of the next hour. Bye for now.
You've been hiding in the shadows way too long. You always thought that you were weak, but babe, you're wrong. Yeah, you better step into the light, just give it a try. Think that it's time you let that spark out. You've been hiding in the shadows way too long.